Liberty fans, I think, can sense it right now.
To go, inbound to Weatherspoon with one. Weatherspoon puts up the three. It's no good!
The Liberty Flames are still dancing.
Fan the Flame to the biggest victory in school history.
Georgia to inbound, gets to the AC. Deep three, pull up. He banked it in! He banked it in!
Shot at the buzzer. Good! It's good! It's good! It's Woodward!
Larry Blair, reverse layup, up and in, and he's fouled.
Man, you talk about degree of difficulty.
With two, Georgie at the buzzer. Got it! He got it!
Darius McGee, a game for the ages.
And Liberty wins 4 games in the Big South Tournament to take home the 2013 crown.
Look at Bio Baxter now.
25 for Colin Porter.
Holmes lead. Splash!
Shiloh Robinson with an effort play.
And Liberty keeps on coming.
A huge basket by Kyle Rode.
Got it! Pacheco with the 3.
Liberty, put your dancing shoes on.
Well, hey, friends, what's going on? Welcome to the A Sea of Red podcast. This is the basketball show. Nick Kirby, joined as always by Will Matthews and Jon Manson, and a much more higher spirits time to talk about Liberty basketball than we've had at times this year. It's been an up and down season, but we are definitely on the upswing right now. Will, just getting back from either the Bahamas or Panama or China or Korea or something. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Hey, that open to the show where it says Liberty fans can sense it right now. What are we sensing right now, fellas?
Ironclad coffee?
I'm sensing a nice cup of Ironclad coffee. Now, let me say, this is not Ironclad tonight, but I reached out to Ironclad this past week because I needed a question about another type of coffee that I was only going to be able to get while I was at the location I was at. And so I reached out, and even though it was like not their coffee, they were generous enough to respond and kind of help me out through understanding like some different coffees and stuff like that. So I still got my bare knuckle express at home. That's what gets me through the mornings. And so we are fueled by Ironclad tonight.
You know, you're just becoming such a pro at the segues. It's almost disgusting how good you've gotten. That was elite. Good stuff, Will. Glad to have you back. Did you have a good trip?
I did. Yes, sir. I did not get to see Middle Tennessee State. Saw some highlights, but I saw the final score, and that was all I needed to know about that game.
Yeah, that was a tough one to miss, to be honest. But of course, be sure to check out our friends at ironcladcoffee.com. All kinds of great stuff there. You can order online, have it shipped anywhere in the country. Be sure to support those guys. They do an incredible job supporting not just the Sierra Red, but all of Liberty sports. So ironcladcoffee.com. And if you're in the Richmond area, head out to one of their cafes and let them serve you up. John, how's your week going, my man?
Man, going well. 3 straight wins for the Flames, and we got Will back on the show. Producer 3000 was a fine fill-in, but he's nothing for the Reverend.
The doctor,
Reverend.
It's in his contract. It's in his contract. We gotta make sure we talk about that. Well, we got a big show tonight. Kyle Rode and Kaden Metheny. I figured, you know what? When you have a win like Saturday night, we're getting the 2 stars on. So I'll have both of those guys on. Looking forward to talking to them about the win and kind of where Liberty's at. But let's run through the 2 games that we had since our last podcast. The first one, as Will mentioned, it was a good one. Liberty knocks off Middle Tennessee 88-53. Just a dominating performance. Zach Cleveland, another ho-hum, 25, 5, and 4. Kyle Rode was really solid in this game. 10 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. Only 4 assists shy of a triple-double. And then Brody Peebles, how about this line? 21 points. He didn't hit a 3, but he was 7 for 7 from the free throw line. He's continued to be aggressive. Shiloh Robinson made his return to the lineup. Really cool to see him back in action. He scored 8 points. Literally everyone contributed in this game. Oh, and Liberty didn't have Joseph Van Zandt and still performed this well. Liberty outscored Middle Tennessee 48-22 in the second half. John, I'll get your thoughts. I know you were in the arena for this game, but this one, look, Middle Tennessee stinks. Let's not sugarcoat that. But the one thing they are pretty decent at is defensively, and they had only given up 88 points one time all year, and that was to Western Kentucky. And if you don't know, Western Kentucky plays the fastest tempo, literally the fastest tempo in the entire country. Liberty plays one of the absolute slowest tempos. So for Liberty to put up 88 points against Middle Tennessee, that is what stands out to me as, wow, okay, this team's showing that they still have that firepower.
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned Brody scoring 21. Not only did he not make a three, he didn't even attempt a three. I asked him after the game if when's the last time he scored 20-plus points and didn't attempt a three, and he said it must have been middle school. That's just not something that's become accustomed to him. But I've loved seeing his play recently. I mean, he's been attacking the basket, and some of the finishes he has off the dribble in the lane against much taller players is they're quite impressive, and it's fun to watch. You never know how he's going to finish. He'll get in there and sometimes it almost feels like he's going in slow mo, and it's like no way he's going to get a shot off, but he always does. So it's been fun to watch his resurgence, if we want to call that. But I'm really curious when we talk about it more. But when Joseph Van Zandt comes back, which hopefully it'll be in the next contest against Sam Houston on Saturday. What does Coach McKay do to the lineup? Because Brody's been playing so well. I don't know if you can, bench him or take him out of the starting lineup. But yeah, it was a great team performance, and winning any game, much less a conference game, like it doesn't matter who the opponent is, by 35 plus points or 35 points in this one is certainly impressive. Liberty hadn't done that in a few years. I think they did it against Jacksonville and Coach Jordan Mincy, his first season there, so a couple years back. But yeah, it was a great performance for the team. And it kind of was – I was looking at these two games as like, okay, is that UTEP win the start of the turnaround for this team in conference play? And we'll talk about Louisiana Tech in a second. But this Middle Tennessee performance certainly had us believing that, yes, it could be.
Yeah. And let's move on to the one of my favorite games ever, as a Liberty fan. Obviously, aesthetically, it wasn't, the prettiest game, especially the first half was pretty choppy. But the intensity at the end of this game was close to as high. And I guess I'll start there with John, with you, just someone being in the arena. Was the intensity that I felt watching on ESPNU, was it as pronounced as it felt to me?
Yeah, it definitely was. I heard a couple people say that was the best atmosphere we've ever had at Liberty Arena, and it's hard for me to say that, even though I've been to most of those games. But there's a few others. The Missouri game comes to mind. That was a great atmosphere, and even the Grand Canyon game earlier this season. I know it ended in a loss, but that was a great atmosphere too. And there's been a few in conference play, a couple last year as well too, conference tournament games. But yeah, it was a great environment, and for it to end the way it did. And the way the team played in the second half was, certainly left you leaving the arena feeling really good. And you got Metheny, Rode, and Peebles there. Their stat lines on the stream, they combined for 55 of Liberty's 65 points, which that's quite impressive. And it goes to show how much this team, they can get pretty much anything they need most nights, as far as a lot of times it's you never know who's going to step up. It's balanced scoring, but then Saturday night against the top team in the conference, it was those three main scorers just did all the work.
Well, what stood out to you about this game?
Well, first of all, John, the intensity on TV looked like it matched what was in the arena, because it was one of the best called games I think that Liberty has had on a linear network that was not Matt Warner and Naz calling it. Kirby, what was his name? Dave Leno or Jay Leno? He like, the guy just brought a lot of excitement. It felt like a conference tournament quarterfinal game or semifinal game. But yeah, Kirby, you nailed it. sloppy in the first half, a lot of traveling calls. I don't know if I've ever seen a game with that many traveling calls in the first half and just some turnovers. But the second half, I thought Louisiana Tech, it looked like they had kind of worn down to me a little bit. Some of their shots weren't falling. And Bacho looked tired. I think Kyle Rode banging and clanging wore him out a little bit. And just we haven't had a win like that, it feels like, since that Lipscomb championship game with Georgie hitting the corner three. We've had games like that, but it didn't feel like we had really like a win like that. And so I don't know what that says about our program, the fact that we've, ran through the ASUN the last few years that much, or just the makeup of the team that Coach McKay has put together.
All right, I got 3 thoughts on this game. First one, Zach Cleveland, he played fine in this game. He didn't play bad, but he didn't put up one of those 20, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He didn't have one of those stat lines. Good to see Liberty find a way to win without Cleveland having to have these just ridiculous stat lines. That was the first thing that stood up to me. Second thing is Louisiana Tech turned the ball over on 28.3% of their possessions. And that was the highest mark for a Liberty team since they played Stanford. You might remember in that Christmas tournament in Hawaii back in 2022. So I want to ask Kyle. I don't know if he'll give us any trade secrets on this, but I want to know, was that a point of emphasis going into this game? Because that's not Liberty's MO, is to try to force a lot of turnovers. A team that has a lot bigger size than Liberty, was that something they tried to really exploit to try to even the playing field a little bit? So that was something that really stood out to me. And then the third thing is just Liberty's defense right now as a whole. That Jack State game on the road, Liberty's defense was really, really bad in that second half. I don't know what they did since then, but 4 straight really, really good defensive games, all under 1 point per possession, which if you keep a team under 1 point per possession with Liberty's offense, you're going to win almost every single time. So that's just really huge to me, is how much better they played defensively. And this team offensively is starting to really come around. And I got some more on that. I'll talk more a little about that when we talk about Conference USA. But any other final thoughts before we wrap this up and bring on Kyle Rode?
No, I mean, it was just a really fun game, fun environment. It was like a conference tournament game, and I don't know, the team is confident, obviously, that they believe they can win probably anytime they go out on the court, and they should. But I think for us as fans, a win like this kind of gives us that needed jolt as we go down the stretch run to say, when we get to Huntsville, it's anybody's game. Liberty's proven they can beat anybody in the league, and that it's going to be close games most nights. So it's good to have that belief, if even only for us as fans, because I'm sure the team already believes they can win anyways.
Will, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, it's just a huge, boost to the team to not only go on a 3-game streak, but to knock off the number 1. And then now that, Louisiana Tech has fallen, you've got the number 1 again coming up.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Great segue. Let's have a quick word from Jason Porter, and then we'll bring on Kyle Rode.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jason Porter. I'm with Legacy Realty and Development, and it's been a great partnership here with Sea of Red lately. I was with Liberty Athletics as the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Medicine, so took care of all of the healthcare needs and coordinated that with a fantastic staff at Liberty in the athletic department, of course, for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved into real estate full time and with Legacy Realty and Development. And it's just been a great pleasure to continue to stay connected with my Liberty University family and the athletics family as well. Been enjoying serving them. A lot of the graduate assistants and some of the staff that I hired has come back now and has been using me for residential services, which I really appreciate. But certainly do residential real estate as far as buying and selling of homes, of course. And then also we have a strong commercial presence as well. So commercial real estate, obviously a very, very different animal than is residential. But whether it's buying and selling commercial properties or just the leasing of properties, we can help with that as well. So it's been a great opportunity to service our commercial clients as well. And then certainly on the investment front too, a number of folks who have discovered the power of passive income through real estate and investing in real estate with rental properties or fix and flips, those kind of things. And so great joy to serve my clients in that capacity as well. The other thing that I would add too is just a very, very full Rolodex at this point of contractors and subs and just different professional contacts that I've made through the years. So if I can ever provide any of those folks to you when all of a sudden you need a plumber or an electrician or a contractor to build your deck, whatever, I'd certainly be glad to give you access to that Rolodex and those references as well. Because a lot of times it's not exactly who you know, it's who you know that knows how to do the job well. And so I would be glad to provide those services for you as well. So love Flames Nation, love taking care of my Liberty family. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, my contact information is all right here on the screen. And I would love to be a service to you and yours. Thanks so much.
All right, joined now by our guy Kyle Rode. Kyle, what a game on Saturday night. Have you recovered yet?
Shoot, man, it took me a while to fall asleep that night, as I'm sure it did all Flames Nation, but it was an amazing atmosphere. Got some much needed rest on Sunday, and good to be back and preparing to start the week for a good Sam Houston team on Saturday.
It's a good week to have a full week off.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, man. It's always nice when you're at home for a week, and when you only got to travel to one spot, that's nice too this week.
Hey, Kyle, question for you. I was just kind of going back in time a little bit, back to the 1920 season and looking at this week in Kyle Rode history. And during this week, you had 16 minutes and 0 points against North Alabama, playing behind some pretty good Liberty players back in the day. At this point in the final stretch, are you kind of like, just really taking in like your whole career as your time as a Flame and just kind of reminiscing as you go into these, this last little bit before March?
Yeah, 100%, man. It's wild because Jess will always drop me off before games, and I'm like, we only got 3 times of this left because there's no more postseason home games too, so you can't account for any of those. And guys like Aaron Schreiner, we'll talk about it. Only 3 more times in the training room left together, and just doing our pregame routine and stuff. So that's of home games, of course, but. Liberty has been really good to me, and ready to close this chapter on a really high note, and love being here still.
Kyle, thanks so much for joining us as always, man. But speaking of your career, I mean, you helped open Liberty Arena and obviously have been there for every game. We were just talking about it a minute ago, but how would you say that environment stacked up Saturday night with some of the other best environments of all time in these 4 years now at Liberty Arena?
Yeah, I'd have to say it's top 1, 2, or 3, somewhere in there. I think about like Eastern Kentucky last year was a big semifinal game at home. Obviously, anytime I think we had Missouri in there 2 years ago. GCU was a great one this year. So just some of those kind of bigger games come to mind, but the crowd made it. I thought our athletic department did an awesome job with the stripe out, so that was super unique. And walking in there for warm-ups, that made it feel like a high major atmosphere already. So super cool environment, and glad we pulled out a win.
A lot of those ruckus environments during your career, and a lot more up seasons than down seasons, and at 5-5 in a really tough Conference USA. What do you think this kind of season is teaching you as a player?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like basketball is a lot like life. Sometimes, like it's not going exactly how you want or things like that, but it's how you respond to it. And Coach McKay has done an unbelievable job of empowering us and telling us to trust the process and stay true to who we are on and off the court. So I think this group has learned a lot. Because at the end of the day, it's just basketball games, right? So you're just wanting to pursue that with all you have, and also trust God at the same time that He's got it under control. And there's not a person in that locker room that isn't competitive and wants to win every single game. So it's tough when you lose, but at the same time, thought we've done a really good job of learning from losses, and I thought like the Louisiana Tech showed growth. I thought our first half wasn't maybe as clean or as good as we wanted, and our defense was battling and keeping us in there. And then we went on a couple runs in the second half to where I felt like that's kind of who we are. We'll outlast you, and we have some amazing playmakers on the offensive end that'll can hit some shots and make plays. So I thought we did a really good job of that, learning from those mistakes and shortcomings early in the season.
All right, Kyle. So speaking of defense, that second half on the road at Jacksonville State, you guys gave up 40 points. Really just a tough second half defensively. But the last 4 games since then, New Mexico State, UTEP, Middle Tennessee, and Louisiana Tech, have been 4 of probably your best defensive games of the year. Was that just like maybe a turning point after that half, or was it something that you guys did differently, or just maybe a wake-up call? Or what do you attribute that to?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Coach Pierre and Coach Jones are our defensive coordinators, if you call it, if there is such, and Coach McKay, obviously, defensive-minded coach as well. So we've just really doubled down on our details of our defense and continue to find solutions, whether that's just small things that we can make adjustments to steal some possessions or make some things happen because we're obviously, everybody knows we're undersized and things like that. So felt like our toughness has really shown in these last 4 games on the defensive end as well. So we've just been battling every day and trying to get better.
So, Kyle, speaking of the defense and, being undersized, you guys forced 19 turnovers against Louisiana Tech. Was that something like, that's not typically Liberty's style, forcing a ton of turnovers on defense? Was that something you guys maybe saw that you could take advantage of being undersized against Louisiana Tech?
Yeah, it was funny because we didn't mention that once in our pregame concepts or whatever like that. So I think some had to do with a little bit with some of the phantom travel calls maybe and things like that. But I really did think our guards did an unbelievable job of having great gaps on defense, getting their hands on some of those loose balls, and especially in the second half, those were some huge winning plays for us and made guys like Bacho and Crawford think a little bit when they were driving the ball or had it in the paint. So I always appreciate that when I'm battling.
Speaking of that, Kyle, going up against Bacho, I mean, a former Texas Tech guy and 7-footer. I don't know what he is listed at, but he's basically is a 7-footer if he's not listed that. But how difficult is that? How different is that going up against a guy like that compared to some of the other guys you face most nights?
Yeah, I think he's a really skilled, amazing player. He's like you mentioned, 7 foot. So obviously, anytime you're playing somebody that's 7 foot, they're going to have an advantage, and just try to make it hard, make it difficult for them. And I thought our team defense, like that's the best part about this is like when you're playing defense at Liberty, you have 5 guys that are all helping each other out at the same time. So you're never really left on an island. And like I said before, my guards did an unbelievable job of helping me out, and it was a tough battle, but at the same time they got to guard us on the other end, and felt like we can always exploit some areas, especially when you have a bigger guy like that, just trying to make a move on the perimeter a little bit, which he's an unbelievable athlete and protects the rim so well. So that was a big key for us, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there's like a little bit of extra protein in the protein shake before you go against Bacho. Is there a guy that, like, looking back on your career, like Bacho, that you can't wait to tell your kids or your grandkids, like, hey, yeah, I squared up against that guy on the court?
None that come to mind immediately. I feel like, honestly, you just kind of, he's a great player, and you don't even think of it like that necessarily, probably till maybe after your playing career is over. Because right now you're still competing against them and you don't want to give them that much credit, but it's one of those things that I'm sure I'll look back on. And there's been numerous guys that we played against. I remember playing against Zach Edey, his first game ever in college, in a community college gym during COVID. We played Purdue and Mississippi State on back-to-back nights. So a guy like Zach Edey, that'll probably be pretty memorable, and just little things like that like years later you think about. So
yeah.
I forgot Zach Edey was on that team. I remember watching that game, but man, that feels like forever ago, doesn't it?
Ooh, and it's crazy that team he didn't even start, and because they had Travion Williams, so it was first team All Big Ten, and guys like Jaden Ivey, who was lottery pick, and we were just playing in a community college during COVID, getting COVID tested every day, and play 4 games in 5 days to open up the year, and obviously that team went on to March Madness, so that was pretty cool.
The story I'll tell my grandkids about that game is Micaiah B had a better game than Zach Edey did in their debut.
Yeah, that is facts. That is facts.
Cal, I know we've asked you about Zach Cleveland, who's taking a big step, but talk about Brody Peebles, especially with Van Zandt being out the last couple of games. He's played really, really well, scored the ball without making a ton of threes. Talk about like kind of his development and his contributions to the team.
Yeah, I think JV is probably the most valuable player on our team, just what he does to affect winning. And so when you have a guy out like that, and you have 2 really tough games this week, that is big shoes to fill. But Peeves and Zach, like you mentioned, they those 2 guys have just exemplified like trusting the process and playing their role. Peeves obviously just has such a knack for scoring and can give you a boost, and feels like he can go on a 7-0, 10-0 run just by himself. And he's done an unbelievable job of owning the details of his game and helping us on the defensive end as well and making some key plays. And so just super, super happy he's on our team, and especially with JV out. Thought he's done an unbelievable job, and excited to get JV back soon, because it's we miss him a lot, but he's still had an unbelievable voice and leadership in the last 2 games on the bench and just inspiring us. So.
All right, Kyle. Well, we appreciate your time tonight. Congrats on the huge win on Saturday and the recent success, and enjoy this well-deserved week off. And we'll look forward to watching you guys on Saturday night at Sam Houston.
Yep, let's get it. Appreciate you guys.
All right, we're going to have a quick 30-second word from Leesburg. Experience Leesburg. We'll be right back with Kaden Metheny.
It's real Florida. It's old Florida, and it's close to all of the Central Florida attractions. Crystal clear natural springs in one of the largest chain of lakes. The beautiful lakefront city of Leesburg offers the best in outdoor adventures, fishing, and quaint shops and restaurants on historic downtown Main Street. Come visit and see how welcoming a hometown city feels. Experience Leesburg, the way Florida is meant to be.
All right, we are joined now by Kaden Metheny. Kaden, how many text messages did you have on Saturday night after you hit the shot heard around the country in college basketball?
Yeah, I had quite a few. Still trying to maybe get back to some people, so I'm sorry to those people that I might still be trying to get back to. But no, I just appreciated all the love and support that I got, and heard from a couple of family members that I haven't heard in a while, which was also cool.
Well, we appreciate you taking our text. That means a lot. Walk us through that moment, that shot. Talk us through the play and just what happened there that final second with 2.1 seconds left, I believe.
Yeah, so get the ball in Zach Cleveland's hands more times than not, something good is going to happen. Just an incredible playmaker, and he just made a great read. The defender collapsed on him when he did a spin move and got it to me, and was able to get it off in time. The defender came flying at me. Didn't realize how close he was until I saw some pictures afterwards, but just glad I could get that shot off and let it go in.
Kaden, you guys, as we've all talked about many times, started 0-3 in conference play and 2-5 in conference play as well, just over, almost 2 weeks ago now, less than that. But now you guys have reeled off 3 straight wins to even up your conference record. You got your first win on the road in conference play, and then that, big win Saturday night over, first place La Tech. What's the mood like around the team, the facilities, the last, 48 hours or so? I know you guys had a day off on Sunday, but, how's everyone feeling? You guys feel energized again as you're ready to make this stretch run?
Yeah, I think the one thing about this team that's so special is you would have thought when we lost those 3 straight, you would have thought that we were still winning games and we weren't 0-3 in conference, just because of the belief that we have in one another. And those games were really close, and we knew that just one mistake here and there lost us those games. And it wasn't necessarily because of the lack of talent. It was just the execution of it. And we knew it was fixable. So just on this 3-game win streak, we're just trying to keep it rolling. And we know we can keep it rolling with the guys we have in that locker room and the trust and belief we have in one another.
Yeah, and this is probably a very taxing time of the season for all of you guys physically. Have you ever played with a mask like Shiloh is doing right now? Have you ever had like a elbow thrown in your face? And that I can only imagine that kind of messes with your game a little bit.
Yeah, I have not, thankfully. But it's funny. We were talking, Shiloh and I were talking before the first game he had with the mask, and I was like, how's it feel and whatnot? He's like, it's good, but I struggle to see in it. So if you pass me the ball, make sure you lob it. Don't bounce past it. And in the second half against Middle Tennessee, I bounced past him the ball, and I was like, oh, no. But he thankfully caught it, and it was actually a goaltend. They called it goaltend. But afterwards, I was like, man, Shy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that one.
So, Kaden, you got a week off this week. I'm sure that kind of come at a great time for you guys after, really just so many just closed down to the wire, grinding out games.
Yeah, it's one of those where sometimes, like after you have a couple games like that, you're wanting them just to come quicker and just get right back on the court. But also, you do have to realize, yeah, this is good for us. A lot of wear and tear. It's a long season, and it's sometimes good to have a break here and there to rest the mind and rest the body. But we're on a hot streak right now, so we're really wanting to get back out there.
Kaden, I know you were recruited some by Coach McKay back in high school, and then ended up at Bowling Green for a few years to start your career. But what's it like? Being recruited is one thing, but playing for a guy and being in that locker room with him and part of the team for almost a full season now. What's it like playing for Coach McKay and having him lead you and lead this team?
Yeah, I mean, he's a special coach, but not only that, he's a special person. And the one thing that I've really loved about my situation here is he's not only wanting you to be the best player, he's wanting you to be the best person as well. And it's not only just a basketball, you're here as an athlete, you're here as a whole person. And man, he's taught me so many things on the basketball court, but also in life. And that's truly what I've cherished so far with being able to be coached by him.
Playing down against Louisiana Tech and having to make that run to come back, you guys seemed a little bit more fired up than you usually are. It seemed like every time they took a timeout, to slow the momentum, y'all just came right back at it, and y'all were fired up, going into every break. We talk about McKay a lot. Who other than McKay, because he got fired up a little bit there too, like. Who's the hype guy on the staff? Is it Coach Pierre? He's the one that on TV looks like he's most into it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to say Coach Pierre. Coach Jones and Coach Johnson, they're calm, cool, and collected, just like Coach McKay. But there's Coach Pierre, always yelling, always screaming, always getting us hyped up, and he's been incredible throughout the whole year, just giving us that energy on the bench and yelling out things when we're on the defensive end, things that we might not know that might be coming. And that really does help us a lot. And man, he's, I sometimes wonder where all that energy comes from, because he's got a lot of it.
Speaking of defense, Kaden, you had 2 steals on Saturday night. Brody had 3. Zach had 3. You guys forced a lot of turnovers against Louisiana Tech. Was that just something kind of with you guys being a little bit undersized against a really, big Louisiana Tech team that you guys felt was a way to kind of help you, stay in the game?
I don't think necessarily. We went in with the same game plan we always do with our defensive system, and it just so happened to fall in play like that. But I remember Brody coming up huge a couple of times when they tried lobbing it over the top, and him coming in and stealing a couple, and then Colin having quick hands on Newman, him trying to, because he loves to get to the rim. And we knew that coming from last game that he was going to attack. And I think Colin did a great job once he got into the paint a little bit to use his quick hands and get a couple of steals there. So I think it was just how the game played out. There wasn't necessarily a game plan going into it.
Kaden, looking ahead to this Saturday, you guys head down to Texas, take on Sam Houston, another first-place team. You knock off Louisiana Tech, and now you got Sam Houston in first place, tied with the Bulldogs. But what do you remember about the Bearcats the first time they played? You guys played them a few weeks ago in Liberty Arena. What do you remember about them?
Yeah, I mean, another great team, top of the conference for a reason. They got two bigger guards that can score just like that. And it was a tough matchup for us a little bit there in the first half, a little bit in the second half. So just trying to combat those two bigger guards that they have and seeing what we can do with that.
Yeah. One of the guys for Sam Houston is from my town, and I've known him through like church stuff and through the city, Marcus Boykin, and, just a little, trash talk if you want to, just tell him Will from Clinton said that he's trash. And I don't know, it might get in his head a little bit, but no, he's a really good player, comes from a good family. But, coming down the stretch here, you've got this first place team coming up again. What's the team mindset as far as, I know you're just taking one game at a time, but what's the team mindset as far as like where you guys want to be come time where it's time to come into the tournament? Where do you want to be, like chemistry wise? I know everybody wants you to be like, we all know where you want to be win wise, but like chemistry wise, like what are some things that you guys are looking to achieve before tournament time?
Yeah, I mean, just obviously you want to be playing your best basketball come March, and that's the ultimate goal. And we feel like we're on the trend to do that, and just continue up that path of playing our best basketball, staying with one another, believing in one another. And we know it's hard to win on the road in this conference. And we're about to have a few more tests here coming up, and especially against Sam Houston, who's really good at home. And so that it'll be an awesome environment there, I'm sure. And we're excited to go face them and try and win another one on the road like we did against UTEP, because we feel like that really winning on the road against UTEP gave us a lot of confidence. And you've kind of seen that going into the last couple of games after that win. So just trying to do the same.
All right, Kaden. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. Congrats again on the huge shot and the huge win for Liberty. We're looking forward to watching you guys on Saturday night.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. All right, we're going to have a quick 30-second word from Flames Rising, and then we'll be right back to wrap this show up.
Hey, Flames Nation, this is Kyle Rode.
This is Rachel Root.
This is Kader Salter.
We would just want to say thank you for supporting athletes like us through the Flames Rising Collective.
The Flames Rising Collective is a registered 501c3, providing opportunities for student athletes to use their name, image, and likeness while serving our local community.
100% of everything contributed to the collective will go directly to creating name, image, and likeness opportunities for Liberty student athletes.
Help us be champions for Christ and champions on the field. Flames.
That beat gets me going every time. I'm like, let's go. All right, let's talk about Conference USA. Liberty's still 5th, but they're one game out of 1st. That's how crazy this Conference USA is. And again, I don't know if it really matters all that much, but let's look at the net rankings here. I think this kind of tells a little bit of the story. Outside of FIU and Middle Tennessee, or pretty much, well out of the race. Everyone else is still there and kind of hanging around. Liberty closing the gap a little bit on La Tech. I mean, I still think they're the team to beat. They're at 79th. Liberty's at 106. Western Kentucky, that is a team that's really starting to impress me. That's kind of the team that stood out to me, other than Liberty and La Tech. I mentioned earlier, they're number 1 in the country in tempo. They play the fastest tempo in the country, which always just makes it such a unique matchup and something that you don't want to see in tournament time. We'll kind of start with you. Looking through Conference USA, what kind of stands out to you?
Well, I had high hopes that Middle Tennessee would crawl out of the basement at some point, but it does not appear that that's going to happen. Bring the conference up a little bit more. Western Kentucky, as you said, it kind of sticks out to me. They're also on a 3-game win streak. It feels like Liberty and Western Kentucky are kind of the teams on the rise right now. Maybe Liberty more so just because of the way Liberty started out. Western Kentucky didn't start out 0-3 like Liberty did. So really just kind of looking forward to see kind of, I'm sure you've probably got the tournament graphic update where it is right now, but it's just interesting to see kind of how things are going to shake out the next few weeks before that starts. There you go.
Yeah, I really think that, obviously Louisiana Tech, we've talked about them a lot on this podcast the last couple of weeks. I still think they're probably the number one team in the league as far as just what they've got on their team, their resume, and Crawford and Bacho are so tough to match up against. But like we saw this week, I mean, they went 0-2 this week, and of course they played Liberty and Western Kentucky, so probably the next two toughest team in the league. But anybody can win just about any night. And I do think Middle and FIU are kind of, 8-9. Like, I think that's kind of been made clear. And in my opinion, and maybe I shouldn't say this with Liberty playing Sam Houston, who's tied for first right now on Saturday night. But in my opinion right now, I feel like, there's 3 teams that are kind of, I don't know if separated from the pack is the right word, because that's not the case if you look at the standings, but I think they've kind of established themselves as the top 3 teams in the league, and that would be Louisiana Tech, Liberty, and Western Kentucky. I feel like if any one of those 3 are cutting down nets in Huntsville, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I kind of would expect one of those 3 to do it. Now, that's not, again, I don't want to take away from anybody else. I think Sam Houston's obviously proven what they can do, but they still got a tough back half of their schedule. I mean, they got Liberty again. They got to play at La Tech, at UTEP, at New Mexico State. They still got Western to play again. So they got a tough back half of the schedule. I'm not sure if they'll still be first or second when we get to the end, but they obviously can win and can beat just about anybody. So, but in my opinion, I think it's Liberty, Louisiana Tech, Western Kentucky as the 3 maybe most dangerous teams is the right way to phrase it.
I would agree with you, John. I think I would be surprised if anyone other than those 3 end up coming out of the tournament. Now, these are tournaments. Anything can happen. Bellarmine won a tournament. So, I mean, crazy things can happen, but those are I think are pretty clearly, the 3 best teams. The one thing about Sam Houston, we'll talk about the schedule a little bit more in a minute. Do they kind of feel to you guys like this team, like, Remember when Liberty just, took care of business against a Jacksonville team that looked like they were on the rise and, beat them with ease at home, beat them by like 30 points. And then they turn around and they go on the road and they lose. I kind of have like same like deja vu feeling with this game coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
Go ahead, Will.
It just feels to me like Sam Houston's a little bit of fool's gold right now. Like John was saying, they still have like maybe the toughest portion of their schedule coming up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them dip down. I would be, I guess, more surprised to see them still, top 3 seed going into the tournament.
I was looking at the resume just now, and one thing that they've got that I don't know if anybody else in the league has as of today, I could be wrong on that. They've already got wins over Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky, and they'll like to add Liberty to that mix on Saturday night. So they obviously have the ability to beat anybody in the conference. They've proven that already, but. I agree with you, Will. I think fool's gold is the right term. And again, this is terrible that we're saying this right before we play them because we know what can happen. But we'll see. I mean, they're obviously a good team. So, but as we look at Liberty's schedule here, on the screen coming down the stretch, 6 games left, 3 at home, 3 away. And Nick, we were kind of texting about it after the game Saturday night a little bit. It feels like Liberty. We said this before, but they've won these 3 straight. Sam Houston's obviously a tough game, probably the toughest game left on the schedule. I feel like New Mexico State and UTEP at home, very winnable games. At Middle Tennessee, obviously we saw what just happened. You never know when you're on the road, though. At FIU, again, I think those are the 2 teams in the bottom of the conference as far as quality of teams. And then Western's will be a tough game too. But it really feels like Liberty can, they've got 3 games in a row under their belt already, but man, they could reel off a few more wins in a row before we get to that tournament in Huntsville.
And if you never know, I mean, if Louisiana Tech kind of stumbles here a little bit with their schedule coming up, that last game against Western Kentucky could prove to be a very important game.
Yeah, and one thing about Sam Houston, though, they are 4-0 at home in Conference USA play, 2-3 on the road. So just like everyone, almost it feels like in this league, they've been really, really good at home. Like John mentioned, wins over La Tech and Western Kentucky. Those were both at home. So, but this is a game, though. This is a game I don't really feel like there's all that much pressure on it. Like, I think if Liberty loses this game, all right, hey, it was a tough one on the road. Team that's undefeated. And then the rest of the schedule is right in front of us. Whereas, a couple games back, there was a lot more pressure on these games. But if you do get this win on Saturday, man, you really are in the driver's seat. Because I don't see any way. I shouldn't. I better just shut up. But it's hard to see them losing to FIU or Middle Tennessee, even on the road. And it's really hard to see them losing to New Mexico State or UTEP at home. I can see Western Kentucky at home just as they're such a weird team and such a unique challenge. But, man, you get this win on Saturday. And, again, it doesn't mean a whole lot for the tournament because there's not all that much of an advantage. But you win this game on Saturday, you're going to have a chance to win the Conference USA.
Yeah, I think this past Saturday, the win over Louisiana Tech kind of put us in a place where you can compete to be in the top 3 to 4 in the league. Like you have like a really good shot, probably a favorite. I know KenPom's got Liberty finishing in the top 4 right now, but I feel like you're in a really good place there. If you win this Saturday at Sam Houston, you can start talking about getting the number 1 seed and challenging La Tech for that top spot in the regular season championship, which is crazy to think that we're saying this when we were just 2-5, 12 days ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, the glass half full tastes a lot better than the glass half empty, for sure.
Zach Cheers brought up a great point. Yeah, New Mexico State and UTEP haven't won on the road all season. Now, again, these are 1 games. Anything can happen. Teams like Liberty that shoot a lot of threes, you can have a really ice cold night, and the other team has a hot shooting night. But nonetheless, they're games you really expect to win. Now, La Tech, it's gonna be really tough to pass them for the top spot, just because they obviously they don't play Liberty again. They do play Western Kentucky again, but they still have games against FIU at home. Jack State, who's bad against everyone except for Liberty. And then, their other road games are UTEP and New Mexico State. But, they have a pretty favorable schedule down the stretch to where it's going to be tough to see them losing like 3 games. So you would almost have to – obviously, you need La Tech to lose at least twice for you to pass them. So,
sure.
Again, it would be tough. But nonetheless, the fact that Liberty's even in this conversation after starting 2-5 is really remarkable.
Yeah, Liberty would pretty much have to win out to really have a good chance to catch La Tech. The tiebreakers, you never know how that'll break down. I know it's head to head as first, and then you go by order of finish after that. So you know, it just depends on how the rest of the teams finish. But yeah, Liberty would have to pretty much win out, and that would get them to 11-5. And I know KenPom's got them going 12-4. I have a hard time believing they're only going to win 1 more game in their last 6, or they might still have 7 games left to play. They got at Western. They've already lost to them at home. And then, UTEP and New Mexico State, we're talking about them struggling on the road, but they've been pretty tough at home. So I don't know if there's been many teams that have gone and, swept that 2-game road trip. I think Western did, and that kind of helped push them up to the top half of the standings. But you mentioned New Mexico State. I would be willing to put some money on Liberty not losing to them when they come to Liberty Arena on what is it? That's February 29th too, leap year day.
Yeah, you stole what I was going to say there. A lot of important games coming up, but I'm really interested in that New Mexico State game. I want to, maybe a little chip on the shoulder for that game.
Yeah. Any other? We kind of talked about the schedule. I mean, I guess we'll just look at the bracket one more time, and it's so funny because it's going to change completely by next week, and even still, it's a neutral floor. But Liberty moved to the right. Liberty moved to the different side of the bracket, and then moved to the right side of the bracket because it's the non-Louisiana Tech and the non-Jack State side of the bracket. Man, I would love this. I would love this draw. Do either of you guys, because people have been asking me now that I think we're getting closer to it, people are starting to get a little bit more curious about this tournament. So again, I guess just to kind of run through it again for maybe people who haven't kept up on this as much as us nerds have all year. Completely neutral floor. The one weird quirk about the tournament is, so you have the 8-9 game on, I think that's Tuesday, and then the 1 and 2 seeds play on Wednesday, but then they do not play on Thursday. They get a day off between the semifinals. So I guess there's some advantage to that. You've also seen that backfire on teams where you play a team that kind of gets hot and you've sat for a day. I do kind of think for Liberty, though, it could really be an advantage just because it feels like Richie's really shrinking the minutes, really shrinking the his rotation. I mean, do you guys think there's any like big advantage to having that day off?
I mean, I think there's an advantage to it. I think that the bigger, more than having the day off, it's such a quick turnaround from that Thursday quarterfinal round to the Friday semifinals, because you go from playing in the evening to playing really in the morning. If the way it is now, Liberty in the 4 or 5 game, you play at 5:30, then you turn around and play at 11:30 the next day. So you don't even have the full 24-hour rest, and not to mention that you're playing against a team that has been off for a day. So that could be very difficult and very challenging. But I really think, guys like us, nerds, self-admittedly, look into it a little bit more, right? As far as like, you really need to be a 1 or 2 seed so you get that extra day off. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, these guys are used to playing AAU tournaments where you might even play multiple games in one day, and certainly multiple games, back to back to back over a weekend and things like that. So I think it's a little overplayed, but I think the matchup is more important. Like, I would much rather play a New Mexico State, a UTEP in that quarterfinal game than certainly a Jack State, certainly a Western Kentucky. I think the matchup's much more important than, having that day off.
Yeah. Well, Kirby, it's kind of like baseball. Those wild card teams, if they get in and, with no rest, no buys, they catch fire and go, to the World Series. I would say, I guess it depends on how they're shooting, right? I mean, if they're shooting 60%, I want them to keep playing. I want them to be out there the next day. And if they're shooting 30% and scratch out a win, maybe we should have a day in between to rest their legs. So I don't know. I don't know if I really have a preference per se, but I just want them to win all the games.
I will say, Nick, you kind of touched on it a little bit. I will say that if we go to bed the last day of the regular season and this is the bracket, I would take that hands down. I mean, if you're telling me that I got middle FIU, Sam Houston, New Mexico State in my half of the bracket, and I don't have to play Western, La Tech, or Jack State until a potential championship game, I would take that, how's the saying go, 7 times a week and twice on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
I also kind of like I know it's the same amount of time in between the games, but I think mentally playing at 5:30, which is I think 6:30 our time, as this is an hour behind, playing at 5:30 and then turning around and playing at 11:30 is better than playing at 8 and turning around and playing at 2, because it's still you're still getting to bed at a good time. Whereas you play 8 o'clock, you're not probably getting to bed till well after midnight by the time these guys, wind down and get past the thrill of winning a conference tournament quarterfinal game. So I do think that also is a little tiny small advantage. One last just point for me, just one thing that kind of stands out to me about conference play is we've talked about how good the conference is defensively. Like this is a much, much better conference defensively than anything close to the ASON. I mean, there is just team after team. There's 3 teams in the top 100, UTEP, Western Kentucky, and La Tech. Several teams in the top 200. The only team outside of the top 200 is FIU. But offensively, this is not a very good league. They're really starting to trend down. Liberty is the only top 100 offensive team in the conference. La Tech, they're at 112. They're the only top 200 team in the conference. Wow. So I wonder, and this is completely maybe it probably is overanalyzing, but when you get into a neutral floor where these teams don't have that home crowd behind them, Liberty's the team that's the best offensive team. Will they be able to kind of execute? Especially, I would anticipate there's going to be some games where there's not big crowds in this tournament. It depends on who you play. But you play Jack State, you might have a decent crowd because they're pretty close, right? But you play a team like Western Kentucky. I mean, they might travel well, but Sam Houston, is Sam Houston really going to have that many people, coming out to or New Mexico State coming out to Alabama? So that's something I think to watch. Is just this team is a lot better offensively than most of the teams in this conference.
Yeah, and Liberty's also, used to playing in these neutral tournaments, and even some that, you might not have big crowds. I mean, we saw them, and how well they played down in Conway and Myrtle Beach tournament this year, and won that conference or that championship. And even, Kyle was talking about playing in a junior college, ballroom or whatnot. I mean, they've played in some crazy places the last couple of years, and even this year on neutral floors. So, I think that can be an advantage. Some teams don't have that experience, but Liberty, and Will kind of talked about it a minute ago, is it comes down to Liberty being able to shoot well. Like, you can't shoot 25% and expect from 3 and expect to beat a Louisiana Tech or probably even a Western Kentucky. You got to, maybe not shoot 45%, but you got to shoot, 30, 35%, something like that to be in that game. But, and, playing in a neutral court, neutral environment, you wonder how quickly will it take for Liberty to adjust to it. You talk about, your sight lines and things can be different. So, we've talked before about, their home road, even neutral splits as far as their shooting percentage and stuff. So hopefully they can adjust quickly to the new venue, the different sight lines and things like that. But I don't think the atmosphere, whether it's a hostile environment or the opposite of a hostile environment, a more mundane gym, I don't think it's going to bother Liberty too much either way.
That's a good point about, it kind of makes me think how important it is to get the best matchup in the first round, to get as high up as you are, excuse me, seed-wise, to get that better first matchup. Because we have saw Liberty struggle, against Bellarmine, against Lipscomb in the quarterfinal games at home, be able to get that first matchup that's a little more favorable to you.
I think it'll be interesting. Sorry to jump in there, but I think it'll be interesting too. You talked about those quarterfinal games before in the ASUN. Like those games, Liberty was such a huge favorite. And I think I might have talked about this before, but such a huge favorite going into the conference tournament that you felt like you were playing with the weight of the world on your shoulders. We're not going to see that this year. Like Liberty should be playing loose, like what they're playing now. They should be playing free. And again, that doesn't mean you're not going to go out and shoot, 4 of 22 from 3 or whatever it is, but I don't think you'll have that pressure on them so much so, especially in that quarterfinal round. But I do think, like you were talking, Nick, I do think having a favorable matchup in the first round, in my mind, more to adjust to that new venue, adjust to the tournament play. I think that could be certainly very important.
Will, and any final thoughts from you, my friend, before we kind of wrap this bad boy up?
No, yeah. I mean, our guy Coleman was at the game, I think, the other night, and, had a little scouting tip about shot quality. And so, Liberty's going to find their shots. They're going to always have, quality shots. And just, I think it's a matter of just, being able to hit those when it really matters. Almost if you're going in with like a 4 or 5 seed or something like that, maybe playing with house money a little bit. a 5 seed is not really expected to win. So, maybe that plays into their favor a little bit.
Yeah. Well, fellas, this has been a blast. Man, we only got a couple of these left before we'll be in conference tournament play. But appreciate everyone who tunes in and supports the Sea Red. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to a Sea Red. So close to 1,000 subscribers, that would be huge for Sea Red. So please subscribe and then like the video as well. We would appreciate that, and we'll be back next week, hopefully to talk about a big win over Sam Houston and see we're right here for the rest of the season. Thanks to our proud sponsors, Ironclad Coffee, Experience Leesburg, and Jason Porter Real Estate. Appreciate everyone who supports the Sea Red. Have a great night, everyone. Go Flames.